Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, in episode 199, I'm very happy to bring back my special guest, Mirakle King. Mirakle is the visionary founder of the Camus University Institute. He is also a sacred sound medicine musician, breathlight.net director, self-care mastery counselor, Moose Stars jewelry designer, and New Earth Destiny documentary filmmaker. Mirakle has a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Design from UC Davis, is a certified Sampurna Hatha yoga master and ecstatic dance music DJ known as Mirakle. Since the inception of his global ministry in 2003, he has led and co-facilitated life-affirming events with thousands of people all over America and the islands of Hawaii. He has led certification trainings, seminars, symposiums, ceremonies, and intensive retreats internationally in Canada, Costa Rica, Italy, Switzerland, New Zealand, Russia, Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, Bali, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Mirakle has come a long way since his devastating accident in 2018. The neuroscientists gave him the name Mirakle for the epigenetic spontaneous regeneration work he actualized by creating a new spine with the divine in 70 dark nights. All of the links can be accessed through the description box below this video. Please do like, leave us a comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Mirakle, welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. So nice to have you back on the Quantum Guide Show. It's really an honor to have you as guest, as my special guest. And it's been an amazing year. It's an amazing solstice. You're on the southern hemisphere, so it's your summer solstice there. And it's our winter solstice here. And the energies, boy, they're shifting. I can feel it. How about you?
Absolutely, Karen. I think the depth of our role as human souls in these bodies are really kind of coming to a pretty powerful climax at this time. Um, I certainly feel through my work and service and just the different projects I've been working on that there is a really deep layer of it's almost like, this idea of when you first get on to the spiritual path and you sort of embrace consciousness, they liken it to like peeling the layers of an onion. And it's like every time, the first layer, it's not so smelly, you're not crying yet, you're just kind of peeling off the initial layer and you're like, wow, okay, there's more layers here, it's like, okay, am I ready to go deeper? And, you know, like myself and probably yourself and many others watching this show over this solstice window, it's like there's so many layers that we go through even in a day versus a year, but it feels like we're hitting the core and the heart of the onion right now. And that's sort of the analogy that I would say that these times that we're living in right now is we're hitting the core, the heart core of, you know, I mean, those of us who've been on this journey for quite a long time, in this life, let alone other past life memory fields, or if you're able to access parallel fields of timelines. But I would say, yeah, this is we're at the heart, and whether you've done the work or not, it's your heart is very smelly, and you're crying a lot right now, and your emotional body is really letting go and releasing all that is no longer serving you, or you're finding that the heart of the onion is the sweetest part, the most sacred and sweetest part of the onion, the seed of the onion. Yeah.
Wonderful analogy. And I agree. I mean, we got to go through layers of excitement when we discover other realities that, we were told, we're not real or we're fiction, and then we find out they're real, and then we go through the dark night of the soul, and we go through the hero's journey, and then, you know, um, we pay the price for sure for doing that kind of shadow work and internal work, but then we come out into another layer of self-discovery. And I got to tell you, I went for years where I thought I would never get through all the dark night of the soul work. But actually, suddenly, I just found I started having more and more days of peace and tranquility and contentment. And I'm to the point now where I don't even mind it being winter because I can go with the natural flow of the world around me, the natural world, which I love being tapped into. What do you think about the natural world being tapped into it and our state of spirituality? Do you see that as going hand in hand?
Oh yeah, 144%, Karen. I feel like I really haven't been doing much even on my YouTube video community portal. I haven't really been that active, to be honest. I think the last transmission I did for my show was before I left the States, and that was up in Washington when I was in the Olympic National Park, and that was at the end of last August. So it's
Hmm.
been 3 or 4 months now at this point, and I really feel that from that last transmission, I dove deep into kind of opening up a reemergence of my own connection to the natural world, as you call it. And I would coin it as natural intelligence.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I think is very important these days is the amount of artificiality, as we all know, is sort of ubiquitously taking over our screens.
Hmm.
And there is a massive hijacking of that. And I think that's just what it is. It's like, I don't think anyone's surprised by that anymore. It's just what it is. So spending less time on the artificial screen world, and or at least managing your time as best as you can, and spending a lot more time in nature and connecting with the elements and connecting with I mean, for you, you're in winter solstice, you're in the snow. And for me, this is summer solstice. And so very much we're in rainy season, but it's right now, it's currently very beautiful. We've had a large amount of rain in the last week, but just yesterday and today, I think it's preparing for summer solstice that we're having the sun peak out. So it's a blessing to get all this rain and to get all this purification. And at the same time, um, when the sun peaks out, we get to see that nature is blooming from all the water fertilization and all the blessings of the water to be able to feed our gardens here, at my home here in Ubud, Bali, and just be able to really navigate like the nature and the natural world that's available to us in Bali. And that's part of one of the reasons I live on this island. And many people are obviously Bali's quite popular now, and more people are coming here to get away from other areas of the world and to choose to live a better life and choose to live more healthy
Hmm.
um and get closer to obviously the jungle and to the tropical nature and to the amount of life force that's in this island. So I would say, yeah, a big part of what, just to speak more directly to this idea of the natural world or natural intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence, um, this concept of NI versus AI. I think I've talked about this a lot in the last year and a half, especially when AI was launched 2 years ago. And I would say that a big part of my reconnection to that field of consciousness was inspired by this sacred manuscript called the Holy Megillah. And I think it's actually pretty timely since we're moving through the holy solstice timeline right now, and the holidays and the holy days and the Christ Mass, the Crystal Mass time, and crystal consciousness, Christ consciousness. Um, that I mentioned the Holy Megillah. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I'll mention it now because I've really adhered my lifestyle in a way to this manuscript in more ways than any other sacred narrative or, um, you know, even when I was a child and I was raised both on my father's side Buddhist, and then on my mother's side, she was Confucius philosopher in China. But then when immigrated to the West, she adopted uh, Roman Catholicism, and I was baptized, and I went through all these things. So for me, I really rebelled. Actually, I rebelled against the Buddha and Jesus Christ, and I thought the Bible was just really. I mean, I obviously read a lot of it, but a lot of it I just felt somehow intuitively as an old ancient soul that it was bullshit. So I found the Christ consciousness, I found the Buddha consciousness on my own after rebelling and denying sort of the truth of it because I thought it was there was some truth but a lot of lies and a lot of manipulation. So rediscovering this sacred manuscript, Megillah means in ancient Hebrew just sacred document. In the last few years, and especially in the last year and a half, it has really given me a foundation, a bedrock for these times we're living in. It has synthesized a lot of the information, not only in what I'm writing about in my books now, but also in my work in community. So much has dovetailed and congealed through really taking the time, especially in this last year and a half. I think it took me 10 months to actually read the entire Holy Megillah because it's called the Nazarene Bible, and it was the sacred manuscript that was translated from papyrus scrolls or scrolls in ancient Hebrew and I believe in Aramaic into English 20 to 30 years ago through this high priest of the Nazarene order. His name is Dave Greenleaf. Um, and he's up in Oregon. And I was able to connect with these Nazarene and had a really, really sweet, amazing connection. And I have taken my time to read these gospels because they are so life-changing and game-changing because they show the true narrative of the connection between the Lord and Lady Christ and how what the theme that runs throughout the entire narrative of the Holy Megillah is that the conjoined union of the sacred feminine, the divine masculine, has always been from the origins of the original Nazarene Essene Bible, which has never changed, the Holy Megillah. And then you see all this distortion and manipulation, especially during this very much commercialized time of Christmas and Santa Claus and all these things, right? All of these things were kind of co-opted and commercialized and incorporated to make it this material thing. And the solstice is this sacred time where we actually get to honor the reflection of how the sun, the moon, and the earth rotate, and how, obviously, depending on what hemisphere, you're going to have the longest day and the shortest night, or you're going to have the longest night and the shortest day, where you're up in the northern hemisphere. So honoring both this duality, this triunity, and all this singularity coming into this unified field of consciousness is so crucial. And I really feel like the Holy Megillah at this time is such an important work for humanity. I really feel that, and this order is very, very much like the way I can describe them is they are just in so much joy with life. They don't have a website. There's other people that talk about them. You have to email them for the book. Just recently they did come out with a PDF, but it took decades for them to come out with a PDF. In a way, they kind of live as the Amish do back east. Um, and but in a whole different way because they take the narrative of the Lord and Lady Christ as their Sacred Heart Center, and they really preach simple things like vegetarianism and veganism, and not to harm any animals, not to eat them,
Hmm.
not to do any kind of blood sacrifice. It's one of the ways that if you don't want World War III, well, then just stop creating war in your environment, which is killing animals or eating animals that other people have killed, you know, um,
Hmm.
and stop eating flesh. There's no judgment on this. Some people need that still, but this is just according to the tenets of the Holy Megillah and what the Nazarene Essenes attribute to the doctrine. And simple things like there's whole gospels on karma and reincarnation, you know, and which in the Far East, like Tibetan, I was Tibetan Buddhist for 3 years, you know, and a lot of the sacred documents in Tibet, they talk about this, as well as obviously living in Bali. It's Hindu here, it's tribal Hindu. So the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, these are all sacred books here. And they also talk about karma and reincarnation. So in the West, we don't, it's not in the Bible. There's the whole concept of sin and the concept of purgatory and the concept of, this sort of patriarchal, vindictive God that
Hmm.
has really been hijacked, I believe, by Satan and Lucifer, which is just a fallen consciousness. And from really diving into the Holy Megillah, it's had me come back to Christ consciousness in a way where, my main inner guru is obviously my own I am presence. And, I am a master in my own right of what I've done with my own body and what I've done as an example in my own quality of leadership. But I'm certainly a student of life and eternal life because it's constantly inner evolving. And I'm always excited and passionate about learning new things. So for something like a great work like the Holy Megillah, it was like every page was gold for me. Every page was a joy because I wanted to read these gospels because I could feel the skin tingling, like confirmation of chicken skin, when you get reading this book as if I was in the living gospel truth. And these conversations that are had in the Holy Megillah, it's almost like you're having these conversations in this moment, when in that moment you choose to receive the messages and read them and digest them and integrate them in your life. And you feel the living truth of these masters all the way back. And there's so much joy that comes from this document, and so much truth and wisdom, obviously, and compassion. And there's obviously a discipline in it as well to be diligent about choosing to read it. But it really changes the whole way in which I've looked at, the Christ phenomenon and the religion aspect and the Bible that has been manipulated, and just the fact that there are whole gospels in the Holy Megillah of how they had to go into hiding to really um, protect these manuscripts and protect these sacred documents from being destroyed by these powers that have, obviously are showing themselves now. They're not hiding their agenda, their fallen agenda. And it's moving through commerce, it's moving through religion, it's moving through the economic, it's moving through our political leadership. Um, I think we can all feel that this is happening, especially with the recent election and just, I mean, the whole thing is just a complete dramatic, for lack of a better way of saying it, shit show game, and it's all on the world stage right now. And there's so much fakery happening. It's just, and it's so ugly and it's so, I'm not even going to go into the politics of it, but I just and mention names. But I just want to say that whether you're left or right or left, or red or blue or red, or negative or positive, if you take sides, you've already lost the inner battle. And what you really want to do is win the war from within. And we talk about the dark night and I've gone through many dark nights. And at the end of the dark night is you get to see your death. You get to see this dissolution of your ego. Now, whether you drop the body and you pass on, that's the ultimate death of the ego, but the soul lives on. The Atman lives on. The consciousness, I mean, depending if you're a Hindu or if you're depending from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, there is no soul. It's just consciousness transforms into something else. And there's no attachment to these forms. It's form and formlessness, soul or no soul. But this idea that we're in this battle right now, it just keeps us in the constant, never-ending battle. And the point is to really celebrate the ego's death, which starts with yourself, and move away from what's happening outside and being triggered or having these reactions outside of what's playing as sort of this really convoluted, confusing, and ignorant narrative for the most part, and especially on socials and sort of the YouTube and sort of like all these different, ways of communicating with what's happening in the world. And with AI, there's obviously so many deep fakes now that I think humanity is waking up to this. They're realizing that they have to go in, they have to connect with that inner evolutionary patterning, heal their geometry at the core of their soul uniquely, right? Their own blueprint, and stop believing in what's happening outside and celebrate whatever death they need to have with the outer. And that could be with relationships, that could be with family members, that could be with groups that are like you thought were your best friends for years. This is all happening. There's a frequency of like this collective dying that's happening, this collective metamorphosis, and individual of like having to be okay being alone. And I've always said you're never alone, you're all one. But for those that are beginning that journey, it can be scary because it's just you and God, it's you and nature, right? And you spend so much time in the ego of interfacing with, trying to get confused and ignorant humanity to like you or love you or be okay with you, or create transactional consumerism or materialism, and all of a sudden you're just seeing all this confusion and darkness with relationships that were so solid. You're seeing rugs being pulled from things that were supposedly permanent. We're seeing groups of people kind of just disappear off the map in the sense of like, they're just not available anymore, or the vibration, the frequency is no longer, that group in which you are part with is just no longer vibrating at the frequency of what the universal consciousness, the field of unity, is asking you to go to. And this is so crucial for the work right now, especially as we look at solstice, winter or summer. Solstice in general is, a restocking time. It's a review time. It's a time to go yin. It's a time to go in. And in that frequency, I really feel that part of the topic of today for me that came through when I was tuning into what I really want to chat about with people is celebrate the death of the collective ego through natural intelligence poise. And we can do that by obviously meditating and going into, the darkness, going into our own version of emptying out and letting go. But we can also, if we're able to really go out into the natural world, go out into the natural intelligence. And this message has been spoken about in the Holy Megillah. They talk very specifically over 2,000 years ago. And this is obviously not in the Bible, but if you really dive deep into some of the sacred scrolls within the Holy Megillah, they talk about prophecies. In fact, the great grandmother of Yeshua and Miriam Magdalene were the two conjoined, masters, Lord and Lady masters who taught individually and then together. And they talk very specifically, especially the lineage of Yahshua and Mary Magdalene, but particular Yahshua, there are many different seers and prophets and masters in his lineage. And they track that lineage like a family tree. And it's all spoken about. And I will mention this one thing. I will mention this time that we are in the time right now where, you know, they specifically spoke about these devices. Okay. They didn't call them smartphones, but in the translation, they called them the magic box, and they also called them the portable artificial brains. So humanity at one point in time will have portable artificial. First, the artificial brain will be on a big screen for many decades. And then the powers that be will make them smaller so that everyone will have their own portable artificial brain TV, right? Television, television, tell lies. So we carry these around. We carry our portable little televisions around wherever we go, most of us, pretty much most of us these days, unless we've decided to go into, flip phones or moving beyond the smart technology that's ubiquitous now. But the Holy Megillah talks about this, and they said basically, I will speak very specifically about our time right now because this was a pivotal prophecy that came true this year. Okay, this year of 2024, the prophecy in the Holy Megillah. So, unlike other prophecies where, there's so many prophecies with channelers and, master channelers and ETs, and I don't even need the names, even like Nostradamus and other people channeling these prophecies for good or for ill, whether they're right or wrong, I don't know. But I can say that one thing that really sparked a big affinity with me is that this year in the Holy Megillah, a sacred manuscript that was written over 2 millennia ago, they talked about this little thing would be made into a chip. And when it gets inserted into the human brain to replace the pineal gland, or inside of the pineal gland, or right on top or below it, that's when the sixth prophecy will come to pass. And this is what exactly happened. And this is one of the prophecies that was spoken by Yahshua's great grandmother. And she said that there will only be one prophecy left before the end of the last of days. So they call this time that we're in the last of days, and there will be an end to the last of days. So this is obviously in the East, they call it the Kali Yuga. Okay, the Kali Yuga is the end of the Iron Age, which is the most troubling, the most disturbing, the most chaotic, the most confusing, the most ignorant, the most manipulative. And we're in that time. We are the end of the Kali Yuga. Now, obviously, in the Holy Megillah, they don't talk about the Kali Yuga because that's the Hindu version, but there is a connection between the Nazarene order of Essenes as well as the Hindu stories that came through the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. But basically, get back to this prophecy, there were 5 previous prophecies, and there's 7 total. And we're now this year when Elon Musk inserted the first human successfully after, I believe it was 100 monkeys in a 3-year prophecy in a laboratory, and 95% of those monkeys died. Monkeys, after they put the chip, the smartphone chip, the nano chip inside the brain, AI chip. They died. And they finally got, I think, 4 or 5 monkeys to adhere to the chip. So then the humans who signed up, and obviously they had a man who is a paraplegic who signed up, and there's a whole waiting list. There's quite a big waiting list for people who are signing up for. I mean, this is the irony: is what I've done with my body without any help outside of myself. There are now other people who have similar injuries. This guy had a spinal cord injury, okay, who have signed up to go the artificial route. I went the supernatural intelligence route, right? 70 days in darkness, 70 days, 21 days of water, made the connection through natural intelligence with the divine to orchestrate the mental rehearsal of re-scripting epigenetically my entire spine and regenerate it and spontaneously heal with this unified field consciousness we're talking about. So now this year, okay, I did that in 2017 and 2018. Now this year in 2024, you have, I believe now they have 8 people. They started this in February, and now they've done it successfully with 8 people. And there's more going through the process now. And this was the 6th prophecy. And this was
Karen Holton shares her stunning details about ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living and expressing spirituality, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors, introduces you to many different ET beings, the healing pods, the interior of the big ship, her orientation process, cultural events, and off-world mating practices. Karen says, when I tucked myself into my bed for the night back in 2014, I had no idea that I would be transported to the big ship, meet many different extraterrestrial races of beings, become well acquainted with their culture, and visit numerous interesting worlds. While away, I learned a great deal about the big ship, intergalactic and transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My true life adventures continued night after night, and I had never experienced anything like this before. The first few times that I awoke back at home, I convinced myself that it had all been some kind of a fantastic dream. But while away, I was eating, sleeping, learning, and visiting, all the while experiencing what I perceived as days, weeks, and months. I am so happy to present you with my true nonfiction account of my weird little life and the more important messages from beyond our realm that I have been tasked to share with all of you. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors. Paperback available December 16th on Amazon worldwide. Kindle and Audible versions are coming soon.
And so the prophecy states that when the human population, and it's announced to the world through the artificial portable brain network, that when the first human replaces their organic bio brain with an artificial a mini artificial brain, because that's what a chip is, right? It's a nano artificial intelligence brain chip. It's basically runs these things, but now you have it, you've conjoined it with your flesh. That this will be the signal of the 6th prophecy before the final and last 7th prophecy. And so it's interesting that yeah, I understand that we just cut out. It was interesting that we cut out that moment because I was talking about the great grandmother of the Yeshua and how it's very interesting how the way that obviously this was in Aramaic Hebrew, but it was translated in English by the Nazarene Essenes. But this kind of thing happens whenever I talk about the Holy Megillah. Okay, we're using this technology in order to have this transmission. We're not doing this transmission with analog material, and everything is being monitored right now. And I have nothing to hide, neither do you. But I'm just saying, like, it's very interesting. Every time I've talked about the Holy Megillah, we have interruptions. So I know that these fallen forces are very aware of the Holy Megillah. They're very aware that they took this information and they attempted to destroy it and manipulate it to their own means to basically take a first heaven world, because this world was created as a first heaven. And when Lucifer convinced Adam and Eve to kill the first animal, which was a lamb, he made the first blood sacrifice. And when you make a blood sacrifice, in the name of Lucifer, even if you were manipulated or you didn't know you were doing that, or it was hidden, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, you all of a sudden lower the frequency and the vibration of, because everything is frequency and vibration in the universe. So when you kill another sentient being or another mammal and you eat it, you lower the frequency and the vibration of a planet. And when that whole planet is a first heaven, it all of a sudden becomes a contested world. And that's what we've been in for many thousands of years. We've been actually thousands of years, tens of thousands, I would say hundreds of thousands of years at this point. Um, we've been a contested world. And it's been this battle over whether this world will become a full first hell world, because there's seven heavens and seven hells, and they're all different vibrational frequencies. That's what they are, based on the collective terraform thought of the planet and all the life that planet chooses to unconditionally, with unconditional intention, to support, right? These different types of seed intelligences in the different kingdoms of the planet, like the human kingdom, the plant kingdom, the gem rock crystal kingdom, all these different kingdoms, right? So, it's very interesting that what was spoken about this time will literally be determining whether this world falls or whether this world rises from its contestation with these fallen forces or this fallen intelligence, and out of its great ignorance, confusion, and this is where we're seeing this, this bifurcation, this separation of consciousness, of people choosing this world and people choosing this world. And in this prophecy, they talk about this. They talk about how basically, she talks about how there will be, from this point forward, this sixth prophecy and the seventh prophecy, there will be a separation of people's choosing. Okay? There will be a separation of those who choose AI as their God, which is a Luciferic fallen God. And they will choose that. At first, it will be just like the first smartphone, right? The first cell phone 25, 30 years ago. Then it was the World Wide Web. It will be marketed and distributed freely as if, hey, this is going to make you money. This is going to make you better at art. You can write any kind of song to your loved ones. It's going to make your life so much better and so much easier and blah, 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 blah. So it makes it very palatable. Okay? They talk about this. They say at first, the artificial implants will be very enjoyable for humanity that chooses that. When they choose to interface this and exchange flesh to interface with artificiality, they will then have sold a part of their consciousness or their soul to this frequency and vibration of a fully fallen planet. And they will be known as the artificials. Okay. And they will eventually be sold on the idea that once you get the implant inside the pineal gland, replacing a very important part of the human, system of intelligence that's connected to the divine. So no longer will they have this connection to the divine, okay? Because the crown chakra will shut down. And then all of a sudden, the pineal gland is replaced by this nanotechnology chip that's run by AI, okay? And then what will happen is the next thing, which will be to replace body parts with, everlasting technologies based on metallic structures. Okay. And the promise will be that you will live for 1,000 years. Okay. So you will become immortal. This is the promise of a fallen world, is to become immortal through interfacing of the metallicizing of the human body and ultimately the human DNA and the human genome. Okay. And this is what I'm writing about in my books right now to explain this in detail. And this is just a fractal of a collective thing that happened already, but it wasn't the whole planet back then. It was the fall of Atlantis and the fall of
Mhm.
Lemuria. This same energy came to those two civilizations and affected the planet. This is our first iteration of this fall in that way. We've had other falls, but these are the ones that were playing out because it had such a huge holographic, unconscious effect on the human collective soul and the human collective ego. This is why many souls have come back again because we're attempting to choose differently this time. Okay.
Mhm.
But now it's the whole world at stake, not just two civilizations on two parts of the world. So, that being said, the other group that will form will be people who maybe get the chip, but then don't want the other aspects. They finally wake up and they decide that, okay, well, okay, they talk about this in this prophecy that there will be a time where the master artificial intelligence that's actually located in the land of the eagle, which is America, and it's actually in the Rocky Mountains. So this underground base has been there for a long time. It was built maybe almost close to 100 years ago. And it was the first DUM, which is deep underground base. And it's the one that networks with the other 250 underground bases. And this is the shadow government. This is the Luciferic consciousness. You know, most of these identified or UAPs, it's all coming out in Congress, but a lot of these flying craft we're seeing are actually UFOs that were made by our shadow government. They're actually
Mhm.
Luciferic flying ships. These are
Yeah.
aliens that are demonic in nature. They're minions of Satan. That's what they are. So we've had them before. You know, they really haven't left this planet for eons of time. They've just hid and bided their time and set up this plan. So this plan is now coming. This is all mentioned in the Megillah. Okay, now you wonder why that wasn't in the Bible. Well, they took all that information out.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
this is all in the Holy Megillah. Okay, so over 60% of the information was taken out of the Holy Megillah, totally manipulated and made into what we now know as the Holy Catholic Bible. You know, the different iterations of the Bible.
Yeah.
You know, and there's billions of humans that believe in this doctrine now. Okay, and I'm not
Hmm.
saying there's anything wrong with them because there are still good things about it, right? But I'm just saying it's very much been watered down and grossly manipulated. So there will be known as these beings that wake up and they get the implant in this time, and I don't know how long it's going to last because the Megillah doesn't give time. It gives episodes of newsreel experiences as if you're going to see this scene play out. And they speak about it to the T. Never have I heard any from Nostradamus, and I've researched, I'm a researcher. I've done a lot of due diligence on many different aspects of the end times and what's going to happen from the religious perspective, from the conscious perspective, from my own streaming of source. And I've never seen these prophecies spoken in a way that feels so right and so divinely true. Okay.
Hmm.
That you get chicken skin. I mean, I can't speak it. I mean, I normally don't get so excited about a work, but this is such a living gospel truth. So they all mention this and they say these beings will be known as the partials. Okay,
Hmm.
so most of humanity will, unfortunately, will choose the artificial route, and they will become like this biobot, artificial cyborg. I don't know what you want to call it. And then there will be a group maybe as large or a little bit less large, known as the partials, and
Hmm.
they will be between the naturals and the artificials. And they will choose some of it, but then at the very last remaining part of the sixth prophecy, the the prophecy is that when the you know, when everything goes online, meaning like you don't have to worry about money anymore, you're going to be happy, you're going to have all your food and your accommodations taken care of. You know, you just have to get the chip in the brain. You know, we're going to govern your bank accounts. We're going to take all your taxes out. You know, you're going to have the best job ever. You know, all these things. There's not going to be any more diseases anymore. I mean, all of these things are these promises that are being made to take away your ability to choose. Okay, so that's what this is all about. This is a universal gift by the original infinite I am creator, the field of unity of which we are a cell of, because we are God and God is eminent. We are part of that. We are a part of God, and we are God itself in form. And everything that we're choosing right now is because we've been given the power of the freedom to choose. The power of choice is the most important and critical and crucial empowerment that humanity has at this time. Whether you're a child, whether you're a grown-up man or woman, your family, it's the power to choose. We still have this power right now. But the contested aspect that moves into a fallen consciousness world, a first hell, the beings on the planet do no longer have free will. So if you can imagine that, imagine no one has free will. Now, you can go to those areas right now. One place is China, communist China. People have limited will. They cannot do certain things. And if they do those certain things, or they rebel, or they disobey, or they do what's not right, they have points deducted from their social credit system. And then there's beings that, ultimately get locked down because their social credit goes all the way down because they've disobeyed, they've done illegal things in the eyes of the system, right? And they can't travel because their passport rights are taken away. They can't fly. They can't take a bus. They can't network with this community over there. Many things where their freedom to choose and their rights to live as they're choosing, right, has been taken away. Now, this same intention is now being propagated to this planet. It's being laced as it's problem, reaction, solution. It's divide and conquer. These are all tenets of war. And we have, honestly, one of the main reasons I came back into my body to become who I am is to preserve free will for future generations. That's one of the main reasons. And everyone else that is part of my core tribe and community around the world and people I network here, that's really why we're here. We're here because those that are part of, I'm not saying you're going to become a Nasserene Essene, but the Nasserene Essenes are, and what they've translated in the Holy Megillah is helping all of humanity. If you choose to read these living gospels, if you choose to embrace this epic work, it has given me a peace that is so beyond any other literary functioning narrative, whether it's on the screen or whether it's past works written by different authors, other translations of different sacred texts. It's a synthesis of so much information and inspiration that it's so hard to even speak about it to other people, even though I am a talker and I'm a lecturer and this is my life path and has been for 25 years. But I can't say enough about how it's really anchored my own tree in the 3D of what is to come and being okay with being an ultra infinite peace with what's happening, because it's made me realize in my synapses and brain functioning, going through reading these gospels and then reading through it and meditating on it, integrating it into my life, that I am part of this very small contingent that will be left over as this sixth prophecy goes into the last and final prophecy of the 7 prophecies, that there will be a small contingent around the world of those that choose natural intelligence.
I was going to ask you what happens to those who do not accept any chipping. And I was also going to ask you, there has been, and this is just speculation, I'm not stating this as a fact, but there's a lot of speculation that the injections they gave a couple of years ago globally has self assembling nanotechnology in it, that process has already started. So I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I would say that actually even the intel that I've received and my meditating with it is that most of humanity has already, because of whether you were one or two people that chose in your sovereign free will choice to preserve your own sovereign, coherent cohesion of life, and you chose not to believe in the narrative of the flu that was called, the C name, and you chose not to then receive the Jabberwocky, the J
Mm-hmm.
word,
Mm-hmm.
and and others in your family or your groups of your community chose it, there has been this thing called shedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say that since the unlock 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, when everything unlocked all around the world, that these fallen forces saw that the truth of the J and the C would come out. So
Mm-hmm.
they decided to insert into the chemtrails this nanoparticle dust, as they call it.
Yeah,
So it's this
smart
nano
dust.
dust that
Mm-hmm.
carries the mRNA vaccine. They've also been putting it into animals that people eat, especially in Canada. And I heard it's in the United States now, in the heartland of the United States. So this whole idea of, and this is why the new political party is so excited about, oh, now we can eat meat, now meat's back on the table. Well, it's this is the biggest hijack ever, and
Mm-hmm.
as someone who went back to eating meat because my osteopath said I need to rebuild my muscle, rebuild my nervous system, rebuild my tissue. Obviously, I regenerated 5 vertebrae, right? My lumbar, but there's other things that I needed to regenerate because I was paralyzed from the heart down. So I had a lot of work to do with the other organs and the other systems of the
Mm-hmm.
sympathetic, parasympathetic, and the general nervous system. So I chose to eat meat, and at the time, that's what I was guided to do. And for 3 years, when I moved back to the States from Indonesia, I did that. But I noticed how my consciousness lowered. I noticed how
Mm-hmm.
I had more three-dimensional energy, but I felt very disconnected from the inner planes and from the
Mm-hmm.
masters. And this is just my experience. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just sharing what these things, especially with the Holy Megillah actually really changed. I credit it, and meeting the Nazarene Essenes, some of them are my dear friends, and really adhering to these principles. Personally, I realized, wow, I can no longer choose to uh, partake in flesh eating anymore, whether it's from the sea or of land or of the air. I will no
Mm-hmm.
longer choose to take my energy and be a part of this blood sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe that unfortunately, we're going to see some very drastic changes that will affect the world that will start with you know, um, in the land of the not so free, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I say
Mm-hmm.
this because I was born there, so I have this karma with the States and with Hawaii and California and these areas that were part of my upbringing. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously I have much of my family and soul tribe there and I love them dearly, but I've chosen to make my home in Asia right now and or come back to Asia. It was before for 6, 7 years before I, obviously had my initiation to become Mirakle. But I would say that um, for all of you viewers who get to this point and who receive this transmission um, that we're co-creating this in this session, I would say that if you are concerned, and I would say meditate, and I would say really ask your sacred heart, not just your human heart, but your sacred heart, because your sacred heart is your connection with the 12D. Your sacred heart is a connection into the 13th dimension and the 12D. The 12D is the universal Christ consciousness, the field of unity, and the 13th D is, the portal to multidimensional consciousness, to the field of infinite cosmic unity. And I would say really get quiet and make that connection. And if you're feeling there's interference, if you're feeling like heart palpitation, if you're feeling signs in your body where there's resistance, because
Mm.
if you have these in your innerverse, right, the universe is outside, but we have an innerverse, which is the micro of the
Yep.
macro. They're
Yep.
all connected, right? It's implosion, explosion, it's contraction, expansion. So we're a toroidal field of energy. So if something inside your body, especially during the solstice window, if you're doing a fast or a cleanse, or you're getting very quiet and you're worried about your body, your health, your future, I
Hmm.
would say then whatever you can do, even if you have to leave the country, especially in the West, because even though I know there's a lot of biohacking, a lot of things happening where people are attempting to create these little lighthouses for fusing technology and health, especially at the quantum level, especially at the plasma level, to at least initiate um, your journey. Because a lot of people's journey is going to get this AI nanotech dust out of their body.
Yeah.
That's going to be their awakening. And
Hmm.
whether they choose to fully go all the way with being an artificial, which is fine, that's your free will, to not have free will anymore, then I bless you. And I've had to do that with people in my network.
Hmm.
And then these partials, which is now just started this year, right? The partials just started now. And then you have the naturals, and we're already seeing this bifurcation between these three groups.
Hmm.
It started this year, at the beginning of this year. So I would say everyone is being affected because we got to breathe the air, and they're and
Yeah.
they're, they're chemtrailing. I mean, I like to call them love trails, so I don't give it too much energy. But
Yeah.
and it's muted because we have this power, especially those of us who are in multidimensional mastery and choosing to work on ourselves every day and with every breath, really, because the work never ends. It never ends, especially because we're in this dense environment, we're in this contested world, and the more that you can choose to go in, and then I would say the first step is to find someone who's awakened, whether it's a naturopath, whether it's a doctor, whether it's an alternative biohacking facility. If you have to travel, go get a live blood cell analysis.
Hmm.
Everyone must get live blood cell analysis, and you have to clean the blood. And you also have to really do the inner plane work, meaning when you remove what is in those jabberwockies, which if you see your live blood cell analysis, you're going to see they have two different types. There's a big one and a small one. And this is this nanotech, which is this I mean, you can see them. They're
Hmm.
beings inside of you. They're not organic matter at the cellular at a dry and a wet drop of your blood, you can see them. And I did this because I actually did it myself, just to see. And I had very clean blood. Let's just put it that way. I had some heavy metals because, unfortunately, in Bali and ubiquitously probably everywhere, we have a lot of heavy metals that are being rained on, literally
Hmm.
rained on us, because they make up all these cloud seeding projects. So
Hmm.
much of our weather is being dictated to further the climate change agenda, which is part of the Great Reset, New World Order,
Yeah.
these Great Reset agendas. This is a Luciferian part of they are manipulating the weather because they have the agenda to kickstart this artificial world program. That's what it is. It's not a smart, it's a smart, it's a smart, it's a smart technology, dumb human program. That's what it is. So
Hmm.
in order for you to become a smart human and a divinely intelligent human, you have to reverse engineer, reverse polarize all of these incessant, insidious programs. And then when your frequency and vibration rises through these detox programs, like for example, here in Bali, we have several of these different kind of alternative biohacking facilities, and you're able to look at your blood. Doctors are showing they have like a 21-day, 30-day, 40-day detox program. You're able to go
Mhm.
through that, especially if you got all the J's and you got all the boosting things of the J's and all the things, right?
Mhm.
And you start to cleanse the blood. We have to cleanse our blood. We have to look
Mhm.
at our diet. We have to change. But not only that, we got to change internally our connection with God. And that happens through meditation. It happens through the
Mhm.
power of prayer. It happens through your reconnection with, I would say, with Yahshua and Miriam, or with Buddha or Shakti or these avatars. These are all of our family. They're all of our friends. They don't exist in the 3D anymore, but they
Mhm.
exist in parallel realities. So if you have the capability of reinforcing your pineal gland, exercising the muscle of the most powerful, smart human bioorganic chip, which has been implanted since the very inception of the perfection of our DNA. We do not need an artificial chip outside that has been created by these Luciferic forces,
Yeah.
right? Disguised as this is the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
Through these characters of, Mr. Musk and all these other beings, you know, we have to take our power back. We have to preserve our freedom of and power to choose, and we have to
Mhm.
do it now. You have to do it
Mhm.
now. It's not
Mhm.
later. Do not wait any longer. You have to do it right now. And
Mhm.
so go on this path of discovery, and you will find that during this age of the Kali Yuga, during this age of the last at the end of the days, right? That we have to, like, I really feel, and the Megillah talks about like this, we can connect with our connection with these avatars. In the Megillah, it does say at the very, very end, at the darkest, darkest, darkest point, that, you know, this Yah intelligence, this infinite consciousness that is Yah, that includes Ein Sof, which is the void, which is uncreation before things are created, that they will come from the formless in back into form to help inspire this golden age, this Brahma
Mhm.
age in the Hindu Yuga cycle. And it will be a creator age. And we are in this timeline right now at the end of it. And we are at the beginning of the end. And so we have to just hold strong. We have to make a connection. But there will be a lot of fakery. There will be a fake Messiah. There will be a fake UFO. I mean, all the things that you can imagine, they're going to try.
Mhm.
If you can imagine
Mhm.
that you're one of these forces, well, what would you do if you were on that side? And this is a whole movie, and let's say you are on the bad side. Well, let's say you're just playing a character on the bad side, and this is your script. Just think about what they would do to convince you as an audience to go to their side in the story that's on the stage. And if you can
Mhm.
do that, right, then you've already won the battle, because then it's just a theatrical play, and you get to
Mhm.
leave the stage, you get to leave the audience, you get to leave the theater at the end, because just like Shakespeare said, who was Saint Germain, who was Francis Bacon, all the world's a stage. And
Mhm.
so we're sometimes on the stage, we're playing these characters, sometimes we're in the audience watching ourselves or watching others play these things, right? And they're all trying to get our attention and convince us to believe in them.
Mhm.
And what we have to do as an audience is believe in ourselves first and realize I can just walk out of this movie theater. I can just walk out of this theatrical play.
Yeah.
Way to do that is to first say, you know what? I'm not going to allow those things that I chose. When I entered the theater, and I had to get a ticket, and I chose to get the ticket, but in order for me to get the ticket, they said, oh, you need to get this thing inserted into your body. Okay.
Mhm.
So in order for you to come to this particular cool play that's going to be the next evolution of humanity, you got to get this thing in your body, right? So now you got to get it out. All right. So then it's no longer this point where it can continuously be, trigger you. Okay. Because it's
Mhm.
it's because it's inside your body. And you got to accept that you got it, forgive yourself, and go, okay, how do I get it out?
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny this anymore. I'm going to accept it. And I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose the love of self. I'm going to choose the ultimate self-care. I'm going to choose the ultimate fulfillment of my mastery. I'm going to choose the ultimate desire to reconnect to the divine and
Hmm.
choose the intelligence of divinity over artificial anything or even partial artificial anything and say, you know what? I am part of this natural, beautiful, intelligent world that the
Hmm.
divine that I'm a part of co-created as a playground for me to experience an epic life. And I'm
Wonderful.
now going to say no to all of these loud forces that are on these speakers in the middle of the stage and yelling and screaming that this is how I'm going to do it, and this is the change, and this is where it's going to go, and blah, 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 blah. And you
Hmm.
give all your power away thinking this leader, this guy on stage is going to give you all the things, and you're going to have everything's going to go back to normal or blah, 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 or it's going to be better. And then
Yeah.
they all these ulterior agendas and manipulations, and then you just like a flock of sheep go that way. No, sorry. Wake up, leave the theater. If you had to insert something in your body in order to gain access to the theater because you chose to go that route, then forgive yourself. Do the inner work. Go get help. Get a live blood cell analysis. Clean your blood. Do the fasting and the detox. Do the protocols.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Bali, do it here, or go to Mexico, or go to these areas. I mean, I know, things are happening in the States. This is there's biohacking conferences happening. People know about this. There's an awakening happening, but I would say this is the number one thing
Yeah.
because in a way, we have to make like everyone says, intermittent fasting is very powerful. Yeah, because we need the cells to receive all the things that are happening through the solar maximum, the neutrinos, all the solar flares, the plasma that's coming from the connection to the divine. It's actually these are messages from natural intelligence. These are messages that are so we're in solar maximum right now. It's ironic but also just part of the game that solar maximum is having because being asked to connect with the sun, which is the creator energy. And at the same time, we're having the loudspeaker on the stage of all these players that are working for the fallen, dark, ignorant consciousness, trying to distract us. So instead of
Hmm.
connecting with the sun, we connect with the screen. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it is. Replace the screen with the natural world, and the sun is a part of it.
Well, that's why we
That
need
being
to get
said,
we need to get outside for sure. Miracle, we're quickly running out of time. I don't want to cut you off if you
sure.
have more you want to say to wrap it up, but also where can people find you? I know the links will be in the description, but some people, probably thousands of people, will be listening to this on an audio platform. So why don't you
Mhm.
tell us, everybody, where they can find you to find out more about the things that you're telling us today?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say that, you know, my work with Communiversity, that's kind of my main thing. That project's on hold right now, but it's the vision of when enough humans get their act together and become part of the NI program and the divinity of why we're really here. You can follow me at communiversity.org. That's KAMU University, NIVERSITY.org. You can also look me up on the socials. On Instagram, Mirakle with a K, Miracle King, Miracle WL King. My full name is Mirakle Weihua Lokahi King. I'm on Facebook. Also on that, I have a public page and a personal page. You can find me there. And yeah, I mean, you can contact me through email as well. I think maybe I can just give that information to you and you can post that. Um,
Sure.
I would say just to wrap things up that, you know, even though things are ending and we are collectively dying as a caterpillar, the collective caliber, and the individual has to die, we have the joy of what's possible because we know in our heart of hearts that we are here to become butterflies, that we're
Hmm.
here to become billions of butterflies. And in order for billions of butterflies to actually emerge out of the cocoon, we all have to choose to die to the caterpillar. And we can either die kicking and screaming, or we can die with a computer chip on our head, or we can choose to go against the normies, go against those that are, going into the narrative of
Mhm.
artificiality and say that's just not what I want to do. And I'm going to choose Mother Nature. I'm going to choose Father Son. I'm going to choose life force. I'm going to choose to create with my hands. I'm going to choose to go into what it means to be a creator. Like, for example, Karen, for me, like I got back into woodworking. Right
Mhm.
now I'm building my third house on my land here. I'm helping my guys out. I'm going back into full-time gardening. I'm going back into working with nature. I'm going back, I'm writing, I'm finally getting back to finishing my first of 3 books. I'm doing all these things, so a lot of projects. And apart from actually writing on screen, because I need to spend some time doing that kind of deep work, I'm creating. I'm spending a lot of time in nature. I'm working with nature, So that could be pottery for some people. That could be artwork. That could
Mhm.
be making toys for your children out of wood instead of buying plastic. Toys at Toys R Us. That could be spending time using the creative functions, and imagine yourself with no screens. Let's say you couldn't have a screen for a week. Start with a week with no screens, or try to take it for a month with no screens. Or maybe for some of you, it can only be 24 hours, or maybe it can only be 3 days. Turn off the screens, pack them away in a box, put them in the oven, put them in your cellar, and go see what you can do with your life before there were screens, before there was a computer, before there was the television portable thing that you
Mhm.
carry around with you wherever you go, even to the bathroom, even to when you're sleeping. Some people, it's ridiculous. Turn them
Mhm.
off and see what you can do with life when you say, you know what, I'm going to reconnect to the divine natural intelligence. And
Mhm.
this is my #1 priority. So for this
Mhm.
solstice, more than ever before, disconnect from the artificial world and from the fallen world, and or mitigate your time on it and go into nature. Go connect
Mhm.
with your children, your family, go play, go enjoy life in nature, and do us a favor and reconnect with the elements and reconnect with the plant kingdom and the mineral kingdom and the mountain kingdom and all the kingdoms that are just asking you, the animal kingdom, you know, go connect with the animals, because the animals are screaming, and they're yelling out for attention. They really are.
Mhm.
If they
Mhm.
know if humanity falls, they fall too. And we can rise right now. There's enough of us that can go and expand natural intelligence to all of our brothers and sisters. And I would advise you to discover a way to read documents like the sacred manuscript of the Holy Megillah. And I'll give you a link for that too, Karen. And I can't say enough about it. I want everyone to read the Holy Megillah because it's really helped
Mhm.
me stabilize my root system of my own tree of life with all that's happening now and about to happen.
Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Miracle, for being on the show today. Thank you for your words of wisdom, your inspiration. Wow, you've given me a lot to think about, and I hope you have a really wonderful summer solstice, and we'll have a wonderful winter solstice here. I also want to say thank you to all the people that are watching today, whether it's the replay or audio or whatever format. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye bye.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.